Alright, so I've had some time to cool off from the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, and I've got some thoughts. Many were positive, but as it's sunken in, they've become negative. Let me get into what I liked first though. The entire Direct was well paced, with big first party and third party reveals. I was genuinely shocked by these. I streamed the Direct, so I was able to record my reactions, as well as the Nintendo livestream crashing. Luckily, I switched to the European stream in time for the bigger reveals. The Direct opened up on the newest Mario Kart game, called Mario Kart World. It looks incredible. Visually, it's a real improvement from 8 Deluxe, and gameplay-wise, it's almost an entirely different series. Mario Kart World takes the game from straight races to an open-world setup. The game has tons of costumes as well as new power-ups. What got me the most during the reveal was that every course connects seamlessly, without a loading screen between them during the cups. There was also a verticality to these courses. I'm not a big Mario Kart guy, but this was a major highlight of the show. It's launching as a day one release for the platform, also included in a Switch bundle, just as the leaks had forecast. After Mario Kart was a major feature, finally Nintendo has voice chat, and they've effectively brought back download play. I don't care much for voice chat, it's cool, but download play was amazing. This was the best feature of the 3DS. I have so many memories playing games with people using this back then, and having anything similar to it on new hardware is awesome. This and the game share are some of the only pro-consumer things Nintendo has done in years, at least they're some of the biggest ones, and they're decent here. They also revealed 2 tech demos, both costing money. One is a sports game using the Joy-Con as a mouse, and the other looks like Nintendo's Good Job game from 2020, but with an explanation of the hardware like the PS5 Astrobot pack-in. This reveal didn't bode well for the Direct, or the console. Charging money for tech demos? Really? After the reveals for new features, Nintendo went super in-depth on the hardware. Some of this was surprising. Native 4K, 120 FPS in handheld mode and docked mode, a 1080p HDR screen for handheld mode too. Unfortunately, it's not an OLED screen, but HDR is huge. The system has a built-in microphone, which the C button is used to connect to voice chats. Nintendo is also selling a camera for video chats using the Switch, as well as mini-games in certain games, and probably other titles too. Camera quality was extremely poor though. The Switch 2 also has access to 3D audio, a new stand, better speakers, and the dual USB ports are used to charge it and connect the camera to the system. Storage was also increased substantially, but how it will stack up compared to big third-party ports is to be seen. The dock has 4K and a built-in fan. The mouse feature also is interesting, but Joy-Con aren't super comfortable to hold as is, so I doubt they'd be great to hold a mouse, though being able to use them in Metroid Prime 4 would get me to test it out at least. Speaking of Metroid Prime 4, we got confirmation that it would have a native Switch 2 version, along with Pokemon Legends ZA and a bunch of base Switch 1 era games. Those were all being upgraded for the hardware. It costs money for some of these improvements. Games like Kirby and the Forgotten Land have an additional story mode provided alongside it, and the 2 open-world Zelda games have a list of features included. I've been itching to replay Breath of the Wild, so I might end up rebuying this. It would be kind of cool to own on a cartridge. The comparisons between the base Switch version and the better Switch 2 version of Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild are almost night and day with differences. I'm not super into reselling Switch games. I'm not into Sony doing this with PS4 games on the PS5 either, but at the very least Nintendo's will have some extra content added. This isn't worth defending though. This content could have been base game DLC, and in Kirby's case was clearly held onto for 3 years to pad the Switch 2 launch. There is, however, one next-gen version I can kind of defend, and that is Metroid Prime 4 and maybe even Pokemon Legends ZA. Since they're cross-gen games and not retroactive patches to older titles, also worth noting on Nintendo's website are titles that'll be updated for free such as ARMS and Captain Toad, and a bunch of other ones too. Third-party games came next and they were split into 2 batches. The first batch consisted of Elden Ring Tarnished Edition, which is a huge reveal, as well as Hades 2 and Street Fighter 6. Which, speaking of Street Fighter 6, this is where we got our first amiibo confirmations. I've been buying these things for almost a decade, so having them continue on was a wholesome moment for me. Years 1 and 2 Fighters Edition, okay. Amiibo! It was also probably one of my biggest reactions live too. We got confirmation of Capcom amiibos for Street Fighter 6, and then after the show they revealed a bunch of Zelda amiibo for the next Hyrule Warriors. After Street Fighter came the previously announced sequel to Daemon X Machina, which compared to the first game is another large improvement visually. This was kind of the theme of the showcase, titles looking better than before and third parties putting as much as possible on the platform after missing a generation of million sellers. The rest of the third party games for this section was Split Fiction, EA Sports titles, an update to Hogwarts Legacy, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and Plus 4 HD, and IO Interactive's Hitman and James Bond titles. There's also a remaster of Bravely Default, which I initially took as a Final Fantasy IX remake. Yes! Final Fantasy IX? Oh no, Bravely Default. And then a port of Yakuza 0. Finally, after the third-party section wrapped up, we had my favorite reveal of the show. Please be a Warriors game. Yes! Oh my god! Zelda's just Kingdom Warriors. I got like, oh my god!
Oh my god. What? I've lost for words. I got tears in my eyes. I'm shaking. We were due for a new Warriors game. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. When's it releasing? Please. Please, when's the release date? Coming this winter.
A brand new Warriors collab game. This made me emotional. Not only was it a new Warriors game, but it was a Hyrule Warriors prequel set during the imprisoning war of Tears of the Kingdom. Age of Calamity was an incredible game. The original Hyrule Warriors is great. Fire Emblem Warriors, both the original and Three Hopes, are also amazing. I loved these games. So the fact that we're getting a new one, and not just any new one, but another Zelda prequel was breathtaking for me during my stream. This is why I'm buying the Switch too. Nintendo wasn't done though. After came GameCube on NSO Plus expansion pack, launching with a rather small roster with more to come after release. The first games are F-Zero GX, Soul Calibur 2, and Wind Waker. The last one being Wind Waker kind of stings, as the remaster would have been a lot better. Next came more third-party games such as Deltarune, then 2K representatives spoke for a bit, Randy Pitchford came out to talk about Borderlands 4, which is announced to be day and date on the console, then Dennis Shirk of Firaxis Games discussed updates to Civ 7 for Switch 2, such as mouse support. After was also confirmation of WWE 2K and NBA 2K for the console, and then the stream crashed. While the stream was down, Cyberpunk 2077 was shown. This version is completely on cart, the same way Witcher 3 was. So I'll probably buy it, solely to support this, but also because I wouldn't mind playing Cyberpunk. The loudest I got on stream was for the Final Fantasy VII Remake port.
Oh, please. Yes! I just played this. It's so good. Oh my god. Ah!
If you haven't played this game yet, you need to. It's so special. I played it over the last month or so, maybe 2, and it's such an incredible piece of media. I'll be buying it again on Switch 2 so long as the physical cartridge version is quality. Otherwise, I'll be sticking with my PlayStation 5 version. I'll have a video out for this game probably before it releases on Switch 2 anyways. Next is Silksong. This wasn't spoken on, it was just there. For the first time since Xbox showed it off, and for the second time since Nintendo revealed it in 2019. After was Koei Tecmo's Wild Hearts. I don't think I'll buy it here, but it's cool. Then came reconfirmations of all the software from last week's Direct and Star Wars Outlaws. I expected more from Ubisoft here. There were some other games too, but let's skip them to talk about the big reveal. A brand new From Software game exclusive to the Switch 2, directed by Miyazaki. I'm not a From Software person, but the fact that Nintendo went out of their way to either produce, co-develop, or buy exclusivity, timed or permanent, shows they're serious about this platform and third-party partnerships. Sadly, there wasn't anything from Platinum Games here, so if this takes the place of the traditional Platinum exclusive, that'll be the biggest letdown of this generation for me. Nintendo had 2 more reveals, a brand new Kirby's Air Ride game called Kirby's Air Riders, directed by Sakurai again. I haven't played the original, it was way too expensive for me to pick up, but this being the first Kirby game directed by Sakurai in over 20 years, is a reason to support it later this year. This may have been a simple trailer without gameplay, but the possibilities of a new Sakurai-directed Kirby, anything, is unthinkable. Kirby is my favorite Nintendo guy, and this Direct made me so happy. The last big reveal wasn't a new 3D Mario game, or anything expected, it was instead the first ever 3D Donkey Kong game since the Nintendo 64, and it looked amazing. Graphically, nothing looks like this. It's clearly taking inspiration from Banjo-Kazooie character designs, and the expressiveness is undefeated. The gameplay also looks unmatched and incredibly unique. Now, where was the downside? What ruined the Switch 2 Direct for me? Well, the pricing. Immediately, I noticed that Nintendo didn't mention a price, which is weird for a console out in 2 months. So I checked social media right after to see what the reactions were, and that's where I learned it was going to be extremely overpriced. $450 for a new console like the Switch 2 is somewhat understandable, made partially worse because of the conversion rate where I live. What sucks about the Switch 2 are game prices. Back when Tears of the Kingdom released, Nintendo said $70 games wouldn't become the norm, and they've stuck to that. It has been a case-by-case basis. But now Mario Kart isn't even $70, it's $80 digitally and seemingly $90 physically. Where I live, that's close to $130. I like Mario Kart, but this is unjustifiable. It's undefendable. I had so much hype going into the Switch 2 presentation that I ended it with even more excitement. We saw Kirby, Donkey Kong, Mario Kart, Final Fantasy, and more, and then 10 minutes later, the hype was completely deflated. How can you even support this stuff? The last 3 Nintendo generations have had price increases on games, and not just a regular competitive increase like before, but now we're taking the price to be higher than what Sony or Microsoft prices their games at. Mario Kart World is the first ever $80 game, which means every other major game from third parties will try to test the price point too. This is frankly deplorable, and you can't even bring up economic reasons for this. It's pure greed. If it wasn't economic, it would only impact America. Yet Europe, Canada, and the rest of the world are also being given these prices. What makes this worse is at least an overpriced PlayStation game will go on sale after 3 months. Nintendo puts their games on sale yearly. Some niche games never go on sale. So how do you rationalize this? It's simply gross. Is an extra $10 on Mario Kart going to break the bank? No, but 20 more for every Mario title and justifications for third parties to overprice titles would. My excitement is practically through the floor. I was excited to buy all of these games, so many third-party titles, even Switch re-releases, but as it stands, I'm going to have to pick and choose. Nearly half a decade of hype for a platform extinguished in 5 short minutes of scrolling Twitter. Nintendo presented one of the best console reveals in their entire history, one of the best in the entire industry, and couldn't toss the fan a bone and simply stick to the industry's pricing. Donkey Kong looks good, but not exactly $70 good, or for me, $90. Mario Kart looks amazing, but I'm not buying a bundle to save on it, and I don't want to pay well over $100 before sales tax on a Mario Kart game. It would be one thing to have games be $70 US. That's what PlayStation and Xbox do, along with all major third parties. An extra 10 on top of that? Come on. The problem here is that no one knows what games will be impacted. Will every mainline Mario be $80? Any Zelda game? What about role-playing games and 2D games? Basically every Switch game was full price from Nintendo, even if they shouldn't have been, and I wouldn't be surprised if most of their output on Switch 2 cost $70, and in extreme cases $80. Then you also have the issue of game key cards, empty cartridges with downloadable keys to download the game you bought physically. Even if this isn't the bulk of the Switch 2 library, there will be developers using it to avoid producing a cartridge to release their games. It's already been announced the version of Street Fighter 6 on the Switch 2 will use this, along with the remaster of Bravely Default. A 3DS game can't even be on a cartridge anymore. Never before has my excitement for something evaporated so quickly. This was one of the big things I cared about this year, and it's almost gone entirely. The Direct was originally a once-in-a-generation banger, only for it to become a major letdown after it all ended. There's a reason Nintendo didn't include pricing information in the presentation. It wasn't to help with the length of the show. I'm still interested in games, and I'll buy the console, but I'll have to pick and choose. Unless Mario Kart appeals to me further, I may not buy it on day one. I will get Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment no matter what, since Warrior games have insane value, but everything else will have to wait and see. It's not even that I can't afford these games, it's that this practice is not worth rewarding. We'll see for now. There are 2 Nintendo Treehouses scheduled for tomorrow and the day after, so maybe some of the games there will sell me on an $80 Nintendo game. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment down below what you thought about the Direct or the Sticker Shock, subscribe if you like. My goal is to hit 50 subscribers by the end of April. Thanks for watching and check out the videos on screen now.